It's actually inexcusable that it has taken me this long to get round to watching Disney's 2016 Pete's Dragon. It took me long enough to watch the animated version. I only watched it, I think, properly for the last time last year. I'd seen it before, but I don't know if I'd ever seen all of it before. I remembered bits and pieces of it. But last year I watched the 1977 version, and I think I watched it with the intention of then watching the 2016 film, and I just didn't. I finally got round to watching it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It took me a little bit of time to get into the narrative because there's one aspect that I personally don't think was done very well. But once I was able to get past that, and it is quite early on in the film, the rest of it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. The film was released, of course, in 2016. It's directed by David Lowery, written by Lowery and Toby Halbrooks, based on Pete's Dragon by Malcolm Marmotstein, and we have a cast including Bryce Dallas Howard, Oaks Fegley, Wes Bentley, Karl Urban, Oona Laurence, and various others. And the story, I will say first of all, the story is quite different. Not completely different, but different enough to the animated version. So in a way, it feels worthwhile. There are some Disney live action remakes, if you like, that are just, well, they feel a bit pointless. But this one is definitely a little bit different, so I think it could actually appeal to some people more or less than the other version. But the story is about a young boy called Pete, and at the very beginning of the film, he is in a car crash, and his parents are killed. And the crash, well, the car flips, and just that moment, as we see it flip, it's one of the most visually stunning but most harrowing things I have ever seen. It is so effective. It's very brief, of course, but it was really, really powerful. And Pete, obviously, doesn't know what to do. He goes off into the woods where he is protected by the dragon. Pete's dragon, of course. And then several years later, some other humans spot Pete. And this is the bit that I have a problem with, because it's several years later, quite a decent amount of time has apparently passed, but he doesn't look that much older. He still looks really, really young. But apparently in this time, he's forgotten a lot about being a human. For example, when he is taken in with his family, who are obviously trying to find out where he's from and help him, he's holding a toothbrush and looking at it like he's never seen a toothbrush before. But on the one hand, if a lot of time has passed, obviously he was very young, so memories could fade quite quickly. Maybe I could understand that, but I'm not buying it. I don't believe he has been on his own for a tremendous amount of time. Based purely on the character's age, he doesn't look that much older. So it took me quite a bit of time to kind of believe that aspect of the film. And I'm not saying it necessarily would have worked if he'd been much older. It still would have been the same story, but I think maybe he should have been much, much, much younger at the very beginning. As in, you know, a 2-year-old toddler who maybe crawled off into the woods and the dragon raised him there. So I think they needed to change the age at one point to make it easier to buy into. But if I'm the only person who has a problem with this, then so be it. I don't know if that's the case. But I just don't think that was very well done. But once we got over that hurdle, everything was lovely. Because, of course, the question is, where will he end up? Will he find a family? Will he go back with the dragon? Will people see the dragon? Of course, I'm not going to answer these questions, but these are the questions that I had, and I really enjoyed finding out. The story does work very well. It's certainly very emotional from the very beginning. I didn't cry all of the way through it, but there are certainly a lot of occasions that are quite heavy. But there are a lot of moments that are light as well, to give it a nice balance. We have some really great performances. The characters are well written, aside from the issue that I have with Pete's age, or the age development, the age progression. But everything else is very, very well done. And I do have to say, I like the age that Pete appears to be once he is found by some humans. So I think for me it would have worked better if he was much, much younger at the very beginning. And that aside, everything else is well done. The dragon looks fabulous. The dragon is a really great character, and a little different to Pete's dragon of the earlier film. Not just because that dragon was very cartoonish animated, it obviously looks very different, but just the way the character is presented is quite different as well. And I enjoyed that. I thought it was worthwhile because it just offers something a bit different. It feels different, I'd say this one's a lot more emotional. The other one, just by way of comparison, the original one feels a bit more magical in terms of Disney magic. The other one feels very much like a Disney film. Whereas I feel the 2016 version, in theory, could have been done by another studio. It doesn't quite have the same Disney stamp on it, but the quality is definitely still there. And the music's great, the dragon looks great, the performances are great, the characters are, for the most part, well written, and the story itself flows well, great pacing. It's a really great film. And if I had to choose, I'd say there's a good chance that I will watch the 1977 one again. I probably wouldn't watch this one again. Not because it's not good, it's just for me once was enough. The 77 one just feels, I don't know, a bit more magical, a bit more cheesy in some ways, but still quite emotional. And yeah, I just think that film's maybe a little bit stronger, a little bit more different. But the 2016 Pete's Dragon is still a fabulous film for the most part. And if you haven't seen it, then I'm very happy to recommend it.